Yashoda Nandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Raja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanatari Jaya Radha Kunjavi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girdharadhari Yashoda Nandana Bhaja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavi Hari Thank you. Okay. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Raja Kacharya Ashtotara Shata Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Raja Kacharya Ashtotara Shata Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Sachinandana Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jaya Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nanda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vinayam Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Dev Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anantakura Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Gunath Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON Vartma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gora Pramanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Tito Jayam Yuridayat Nasta Presho Vatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhava. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan. Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. All right, good morning, everybody. There's just so many of you here. I just don't know if I'll be able to quell my nervousness. All right, so today is January 24th, 2025, and we're reading Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 25, Descriptions of the Characteristics of King Puranjana, and we're doing verse 62, which is the last verse in this chapter. So, and then tomorrow we'll start a new chapter. Okay. Vipralapto mahishyavam
Vipralapto mahishyavam
sarva prakriti vanchita
sarva prakriti vanchita
nichchan anukarotyagna
nityam anukarotyagna
klaibyakkrida mrigo yata
lavyakridam mrigo yata
Vipralapto mahishyavam
Vipralapto mahishyavam
sarva prakriti vanchita
sarva prakriti vanchita
nichchan anukarotyagna
nityam anukarotyagna
klaibyakkrida mrigo yata
lavyakridam mrigo yata
Vipralapto mahishyavam
Vipralapto mahishyavam
sarva prakriti vanchita
sarva prakriti vanchita
nichchan anukarotyagna
nityam anukarotyagna
klaibyakkrida mrigo yata.
lavyakridam mrigo yata
Okay, please chant.
Vipralapto mahishyavam
Vipralapto mahishyavam
sarva prakriti vanchita
sarva prakriti vanchitaha
nityam anukarotyagna
nichchan anukarotyagna
lavyakridam mrigo yata
klaibyakkrida mrigo yata. Vipralapto mahishyavam sarva prakriti vanchita nichchan anukarotyagna klaibyakkrida mrigo yata.
Vipralapto mahishyavam
Vipralapto mahishyavam
sarva prakriti vanchita
sarva prakriti vanchita
Chananu
nichchan anukarotyagna
mrigo yata
klaibyakkrida. Okay, word for Vipralabdha,
Vipralapta
captivated. Mahishya,
mahishya
by the queen. Evam, thus. Sarva,
sarva
all. Prakriti,
prakriti
existence.
existence
Vanchita,
vanchita
being cheated.
being cheated
Na ichan,
natichan
without desiring.
without desire
Anukaroti,
anukaroti
used to follow and imitate.
used to follow and imitate
Agnaha,
Agnaha,
the foolish king.
the foolish king
Klaibyat,
Raja
by force.
by force
Krida mriga,
Krida
a pet animal.
a pet animal
Yata,
Yata
just like. All right, translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. In this way, King Puranjana was captivated by his nice wife and was thus cheated in his whole existence in the material worlds. Even against that poor foolish king's desire, he remained under the control of his wife, just like a pet animal that dances according to the order of its master. All right, please repeat. In this way,
In this way,
King Puranjana was captivated
King Arjuna was captivated
by his nice wife
by his nice wife
and was thus cheated.
and was thus cheated.
Indeed,
Indeed,
he became cheated in his whole existence
he became cheated in his whole existence
in the material world,
in the material world,
even against that poor foolish king's desire.
even against that poor foolish king's desire.
He remained under the control of his wife,
He remained under the control of his wife,
just like a pet animal that dances
just like a pet animal that dances
according to the order of its master.
according to the order of his master.
Okay, purport. The word vipralabdha is very significant in this verse. Vid means specifically, and pralabdha means obtained. Just to satisfy his desires, the king got the queen, and thus he became cheated by material existence. Although he was not willing to do so, he remained a pet animal under the control of material intelligence. Just as a pet monkey dances according to the desires of its master, the king danced according to the desires of the queen. In Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.2, it is said, Mahat Sevam Dvaram Ahur Vikmuktehe. If one associates with a saintly person, a devotee, one's path of liberation becomes clear. But if one associates with a woman or with a person who is too much addicted to a woman, his path of bondage becomes completely clear. On the whole, for spiritual advancement, one must give up the company of women. This is what is meant by the order of sannyas, the renounced order. Before taking sannyas, or completely renouncing the material world, one has to practice avoiding illicit sex. Sex life, illicit or licit, is practically the same, but through illicit sex, one becomes more and more captivated. By regulating one's sex life, there's a chance that one may eventually be able to renounce sex or renounce the association of women. If this can be done, advancement in spiritual life comes very easily. How one becomes captivated by the association of one's dear wife is explained in this chapter by Narada Muni. Attraction for one's wife means attraction for the material qualities. One who is attracted by the material quality of darkness is in the lowest stage of life, whereas one who is attracted by the quality of goodness is in a better position. Sometimes we see that when a person is on the platform of material goodness, he is attracted more or less by the cultivation of knowledge. This is, of course, a better position, for knowledge gives one the preference to accept devotional service. Unless one comes to the platform of knowledge, the Brahmabhuta stage, one cannot advance in devotional service. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18:54, Brahmabhuta prasanatma na shochanti na kanshakti sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim lavate param. One who is thus realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully, never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. The platform of knowledge is advantageous because it is a means by which one may come to the stage of devotional service. However, if one takes to devotional service directly, knowledge is revealed without separate endeavor. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:2-7. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahai Kutukam. Devotional service automatically reveals actual knowledge of our material existence. One who is sufficiently intelligent immediately attains the stage of renunciation of so-called society, family, and love, as well as other things. As long as we are attached to society, family, and love of the material world, there is no question of knowledge, nor is there question of devotional service. By directly taking to devotional service, however, one becomes filled with knowledge and renunciation. In this way, one's life becomes successful. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 25th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Descriptions of the Characteristics of King Puranjana. Okay. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Rita Shri Vishakamatamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Chakapate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. All right, so we're wrapping up this allegory with King Paranjana, which is an allegory for the living entity, for us living in the human body. And so this verse specifically, the king is following his material intelligence. He's being led around by his material intelligence and his senses. And it says in the verse, dancing like a pet, right? Which is pretty harsh. Right, and people, they like to think that they're in control, but really they're at the mercy of their senses. And we've all seen that picture, right, where the soul and then is in the chariot, and then the intelligence is driving, and the horses are the senses, right? The soul looks kind of terrified because the intelligence is just driving with those horses and just going whichever way. And so that's our position. We're not, as in control as we'd like to think we are. We're actually at the mercy of our intelligence and our senses, kind of leading us around and telling us what to do. So, and Srila Prabhupada says in the purport to 522 in the Bhagavad Gita that the more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he's entrapped by material miseries. And we can really see this. I once worked at a gas station. I was the assistant manager there for years. And, so I was in charge of counting out all the money and keeping the books. And so one day we got a new hire, and he saw me counting out the safe, which wasn't even that much money. But for this kid, he was just like, wow, so much money. And he literally said to me that, oh, how can you count that money and not take it? And he said, if I had to do that, I would just run away with it. And, he didn't last long at that store. But that's because that guy's not able to control his senses, right? He sees that money and he thinks about all the enjoyment he could have with that money. And so he's willing to risk his freedom, his so-called freedom, take that money and run away just for the just a little bit. And it wasn't even that much money. I mean, I think on a big day, it might have been like $5,000. You're not even going to really make it to Mexico. Maybe you'd make it to Mexico, but you'd probably be coming back very shortly. So anyway, yeah. And, you've all heard that saying, like a moth to a flame, right? The moth is so attracted to the light, but it ends up killing them. So I found this really poetic kind of write-up about that was done by a devotee named Purushottam Nitai Das. The lady in the golden flame looks pretty to the moth. Her fiery smile makes him dance in joy. It's not that she is smiling just at him, but at all. The moth believes her smile is only for him. And so he, without wasting any moment, runs desperately to be with her. As he inches closer to the golden lady, she looks much prettier, and he becomes desperate to her. The lady, looking bright yellow, spreads her arms for him, and the moth, with a hope to enjoy unlimited pleasure, jumps into her arms. But immediately his hope turns into a nightmare, happiness into deep agony. His beautiful wings, which allowed him to play with the wind and jump from one plant to another, to play with the colorful flowers, is now in fire. He tries hard to come out of the embrace. With teary eyes, he looks at her, but she is indifferent to his pleas. He cries in pain. He tries his best to free himself. Soon he realizes his efforts will go in vain, and so slowly he surrenders himself to her and allows himself to be devoured by her. Meanwhile, the victorious lady smiles slyly and spreads her arms to welcome the other moth, who, in the hope of unlimited pleasure, is running towards her to enjoy with her. And so that's really no different than what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. As a society, individuals, we know, we can see this, if you look at the concept of fast fashion, right? That's a big thing right now, which is like there's really cheap clothes being pumped out of China, and the trends are changing, and so people are buying like whole new wardrobes and then discarding them and buying as the trends change. This is really bad for the environment. A lot of these clothes are made out of polyester, which does not decompose in a timely fashion. And so it's contributing all this pollution to the world. So there we are, little well-dressed moths. We're dressed very nicely, but we're going right into that flame. Or in industrial farming, right? We know like industrial farming is not sustainable, right? We keep putting these fertilizers into the earth because we're stripping the earth of the nutrients. And so our food, the nutrient density of our food has gone down drastically in the last 50 years. And so we know that's not sustainable, but we keep doing it anyway. We're just little moths fluttering right into that flame. Same with, plastic. We're completely addicted to plastic, right? And I just saw where they're now finding microplastics or nanoplastics, whatever the smallest one is, in people's brains. They're in our brains, right? So like plastic is just completely permeated everywhere on this planet. And it is completely damaging to us. But yet, I still use plastic every day. I still go to the store. I buy so many plastic things, because we're addicted to that. And you see this in relationships too, right? People keep trying again and again. Some people, just, hey, I've been with this person for so long, it's not working out. Now I'm going to try someone else. Oh, you know what? It's still not working out. I'm going to try someone else, right? And then they end up, just keep trying and trying and trying. Maybe having children with those people, maybe not, but still, the common definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? And that's what we do. We do the same things over and over, expecting different results. And that even expands to, it happens within this lifetime, but then even in the next lifetime or our previous lifetimes, we're doing the same things over and over. And that's because we're addicted to trying to satisfy our senses. So Bhagavad Gita 5:22 says, an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, so the wise man does not delight in them. And then in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5:5:1, Lord Rishabhadev told his sons, my dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. So there we can see this is what we should do, is just not take part in these sources of misery. And then as it said in that last verse I read, we should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. And so that can be a little bit difficult to just, okay, I'm just not going to take part in these sources of misery. If it was that easy, I think most people would have stopped already, right? They would have realized, oh, you know what, this is miserable. It's not working out. Maybe I should do something different. But it's hard to do that, right? I mean, it's really difficult to do that because our senses are so strong. And so we know the concept of the higher taste, where we want to replace those attractions with an attraction to something Krishna conscious, right? And so, you want to replace those fast fashion, right? I want to replace that buying new clothes every month or so with decorating the deities very nicely, right? That's way more satisfying because I can look at the deities and think, wow, they look so beautiful. Whereas I look at the thing I just bought from Shein and I think, oh, the first 2 times I wore this was nice, but now I don't like it anymore, right? And so that's what we want to do is replace these addictions with something that's greater, something that is better. So this purport also talked about the importance of association. And we know association is so powerful. There's that saying, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are, right? And I've talked about this before, but this extends to, the things that we're letting in our ears, the different sounds and things we're looking at. So it's the people we're with, but also the information that we're taking in, right? And we can see this on a lesser level, like with the experiment I think a lot of you've seen, like with plants, where they play the plants like classical music, and the plants will do really well. They'll start like kind of growing even towards the speaker sometimes. And then they'll play the plants, like some like hard rock music or something. And the plants, they don't grow towards the speaker for that one, right? And so these things do have an effect on us, what we're putting in our ears, in our eyes, who we're hanging out with. You can also see this effect if you've ever gone like in a store and you're like, okay, I'm just going to buy, these things that I need to get. And then somehow a salesperson gets to you and they somehow convince you to buy something. I mean, that happens too. And that's because you've associated with that salesperson. They've been able to take you off track of what your needs are and say, yes, oh yes, you're right. I actually do need this electric contraption that, does something that a spoon could do, because association is just so important. It really changes, it can really change, it can change the things that you want to do. And that's why it's so common you hear the people say, oh, my family's a military family, right? I've heard that a lot. And so for so many generations, this family, they had people that went into the military, and it's very common that their kids end up going in the military, and that's because they're associating with their family members that are in the military, and they think, oh, that's a path I also want to do, because who we have around us influence our day-to-day decisions. So, you can really see this in two stories that were very common with. One is Ajamil, right? He was when he was young, he was very Brahminical. He was doing so much nice service for the Lord. And just a moment's association, he saw a woman embraced with a man, a prostitute embraced with a man, and suddenly all that devotional service just kind of like left his mind, and he started thinking about ways he could enjoy with her, and then that sidetracked him for a long time. I mean, it had to be decades, because it said he had so many children with her. How many was it? Like 10 children or something like that with her. So I mean, that takes a while. And so all that service that he did was still not enough to stop him from being sidetracked, right? And ultimately, though, at the end of his life, when he called out for his young son, Narayan, the Vishnu Dutas came and saved him from the Yamadutas. And why was that? Because of all that service that he did, right? Krishna remembered him. And then they weren't going to just let him go. You know, he said, no, you call my name. Right? And so that story I really like, because it shows an example of two different things. One, that Ajamil, even after being such a good devotee and doing so much service, was still able to fall down, and for a long time. I mean, this wasn't just like, you know, a momentary lapse, right? And then two, even though he did fall down, and it was for a long time, it wasn't a momentary lapse, Krishna didn't forget that service that he did, right? And so that story tells us both things, that one, our service to Krishna, he won't forget it. That's the one thing that's eternal. And two, that we need to be careful with our association, right? The other story that I thought of in terms of association is Narada Muni, right? So Narada Muni, before he was Narada Muni, he was a Gandharva, and he was very handsome, and you know, was at like a Kirtan festival, and I think his name was Upabarnam, something like that. And he was at a Kirtan festival, and he was performing, and the ladies loved him, and he was just enjoying. And he started chanting the names of the demigods instead of the names of the Supreme Lord. And this upset some devotees, and they cursed him to be born in the body of a Sudra. And so he was no longer handsome. He lost his looks, and you know, he didn't have that Gandharva beauty anymore. And his mother, who was a maid, she worked for these sages that would come and stay for a few months at a time. I think it was during the rainy season, I think. And naturally, because he's her son, he would help her out with that service. And so he starts serving these sages, and he's listening to their conversations, and he's taking their remnants, and that little bit of association that he got completely changed his life, because he ended up becoming a great devotee. After his mother passed away, he started wandering and just chanting, and later when that life ended, he became Narada Muni. He gets to travel around the universe playing his veena and helping people come closer to Krishna. And that's because he was able to associate with those sages. You know, he was able to listen to their conversations, take their remnants. And so association is so important that it says in the 11th canto that souls from other yugas want to be born in this yuga, because this yuga is going to have so many devotees, right? And that's because Lord Chaitanya came to basically give us Krishna Prem, you know, very, very easily in the way we just have to chant and follow these simple rules. And in past yugas, it was much more difficult to do that, to get Krishna prema. And so, yeah, souls actually want to be born. Let's see. This is from the purport of 11.538. The inhabitants of Satya Yuga are certainly aware of the conditions of Kali Yuga. They know that in Kali Yuga, the difficult material situation forces the living entity to take complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that the inhabitants of Kali Yuga therefore develop a high degree of love of Godhead. Therefore, although the inhabitants of Satya Yuga are far more sinless, truthful, and self-controlled than the people of other ages, they desire to take birth in Kali Yuga in order to taste pure love of Krishna. I mean, that's amazing. And so we should feel so fortunate to be here. And let's see. This is from later on in that purport. Association with the devotees of the Lord is far more valuable than any amount of association with persons who are merely self-controlled, sinless, or expert in Vedic scholarship. And Bhagavatam 6th canto, it says, O great sage, among many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, one may become a devotee of Lord Narayan or Krishna. Such devotees who are fully peaceful are extremely rare. And then in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says, the verdict of all revealed scriptures is that by even a moment's association, success. So that's how important association is, right? I mean, we have to really be careful about who we associate with, but also what we associate with in the terms of what we're reading, what we're hearing, what we're seeing. So this purport also talks about the binding and degrading power of illicit sex. And this we can see everywhere in our society. I see, children are neglected because their parents are trying to find new partners. I've seen so many stories about that. There was a story recently, a woman was this is just shows how degraded our society has become. A woman was trying to break a record with how many men she could sleep with in a day. And she broke that record, over 1,000 in one day.
Ouch.
And how do you do that, right? I mean, that, yeah, I mean, it's horrible. It's so degraded. And we can see that this illicit sex that's causing this degradation of our society, it's just horrible. I mean, we can see it everywhere. So many children come into the world, they're sort of unwanted and unloved. They're not taken care of properly. And then those children grow up to often do the same things. And then they have unwanted children and that are not loved. Or maybe the children are loved, but they don't have the resources to take care of them because, it's just the mother by herself trying to take care of them. And so this is all results of illicit sex. Now, Krishna also says that he is sex life that is not contrary to religious principles. So we need to regulate our lives in order to have success in spiritual life. And it's just really sad, our society, just how badly we're degraded by illicit sex. I mean, we find that children are being sexualized younger and younger and younger. There was a small outrage, but not nearly as big as it should have been, out over the fact that some store, I don't remember if it was Target or some store, was selling thong underwear for toddlers. I mean,
Toddlers?
yeah. You need that. No, nobody needs that.
A Canadian, and she says, years
Yeah, well, if you start when you're a toddler, you'll be used to it. Yeah, and so some people are trying to change it, but I'm dubious about whether or not they'll be successful. There was a story, maybe you saw it, a senator in Mississippi introduced a bill. The name of the bill is Contraception Begins at Erection. And the bill is to outlaw the discharge of genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo. And so they're trying to, their stated purpose was to try to make men more conscious about, what they're doing when they're, trying to sleep with so many women. Yes?
So what was it? Contraception begins
At erection.
at action?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the name of the bill.
So it puts it on the man.
Huh?
It puts it on the man.
Yeah. And that was the senator's intent was to make men more conscious about what they're doing when they're having all this illicit sex, right? But does anyone think this bill is actually going to pass? I mean, of course not, right? This bill is not going to pass because the mindset's still the same, right? You have to change the mindset of people. And so, this senator's basically just wasting time okay, you made a shocking statement, maybe you got some news coverage, but is it really going to change anyone's behavior? Yeah, well, exactly. I was just talking with our friend here, telling him about it and saying, how would you regulate it? You're just going to send, yeah. But, this bill's going to, of course, because it's absurd, that mindset is still there, that mindset of wanting to enjoy and not really caring what the consequences, and until these things are going to keep happening. Report. I really liked, let's see. Okay. In this report, Prabhupada also said, one who is attracted by the material quality of darkness is in the lowest stage of life, whereas one who is attracted by the material quality of goodness is in a better position. Sometimes we see that when a person is on the platform of material goodness, he's attracted more or less by the cultivation of knowledge. So, what is this knowledge that, someone in the platform of goodness is attracted to? Is it just kind of, this made me think of people that are really into conspiracy theories. This is something that we were also talking about yesterday. People that are really into conspiracy theories, they're super attracted to those things. Is this the kind of knowledge that Prabhupada's talking about? I don't think so. What's interesting is that there's been a few different studies that have been done on why people believe in conspiracy theories, why they're attracted to them. And some of the reasons are because they want to belong to a group. They want to feel more control over something they don't have any control over. They want to feel safe. They want to have secret knowledge that makes them feel good. Right? But this isn't the kind of knowledge that but the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada is talking about, it is secret knowledge. It does help you belong to a group. It does help you feel safe and informed. And that secret knowledge is the most confidential knowledge, right? The most confidential knowledge. So we know that in chapter 9, we hear about the most confidential knowledge. And I kind of summarized it in 3 main points, which is Krishna is supreme. Devotional service will free us from bondage, and that this is available to anyone, right? And so that's my little synopsis of the most confidential knowledge. And in a way, it's sort of the greatest conspiracy theory, right? You know, the greatest conspiracy theory is that this is all illusion, and that really we need to be serving Krishna to get us out of illusion, and anyone can do it. And so, let's see here. Yeah. So 9:13 says, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Let's see. Later in that chapter, it says, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that as an offering to me. In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me, in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So there we go. The first verse established Krishna supreme. That second two that I read, that devotional service will free us from bondage. And then later in that chapter, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, shudras, can attain the supreme destination. Yeah. Engage your mind always thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, worship me, being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So it's available to everybody. So that's the most confidential knowledge. That's the secret knowledge that we should be looking for. And I think I'm just going to end with, you know, in the verse it said that King Puranjana was captivated by his nice wife and was thus cheated. Indeed, he became cheated in his whole existence in the material world. So don't be cheated, right? And also, I just want to say, you know, they talked a lot about being captivated by a wife or women, or it goes both ways. For women, it's, you know, the opposite, you know, men. You just don't want to be, you know, distracted from devotional service by the opposite sex. And, you know, the main thing to remember is to accept what is favorable to your Krishna consciousness and reject what is unfavorable to your Krishna consciousness. And so for some people, it is favorable to take on a husband or a wife. And that helps them in their Krishna consciousness. And for other people, yeah, exactly. And for other people, it really hinders them in their Krishna consciousness. And so everybody is different in terms of what their needs are in order to really have their Krishna consciousness blossom, right? And for some people, that means having family life and having a partner. And for some people, that means, you know, staying away from that. And that neither path is better than the other. And so I just wanted to say that because a lot of times it can seem like, you know, things are really down. But you have to just remember, whatever's going to bring me closer to Krishna, that's what I need. So don't get cheated. Don't let your material intelligence just drag you around. Of that book, which one is it? It shows the demigods, like, yeah, and they have the puppets and the huh?
I don't know how you say it.
Anyway, yeah, that like that. Don't be like those puppets. Don't be a marionette. Yeah, so don't get cheated. All right, and so we'll end there.
You were talking about these people who, clothes,
Yeah.
you know, it reminded me of, was living in the LA Temple, and, you know, I usually get a, that one that was like really pretty, and I thought, wow, this is really flattering, you know, and I remember the first day I wore it, and never looked since, because some devotee said, fashion is fall down. I mean,
Aw.
it really hit me,
Yeah,
you know? I mean, right. You know?
yeah. Oh, that makes me sad though. If you still have that hat, you should wear it.
Well, it was a really good lesson. I mean, it was years ago, 45 years ago. The kid home. My girlfriend always makes fun of me because, you know, well, mostly I just have devotional clothes, and I have a lot of swimming suits.
Yeah,
But I would buy the kind of the same clothes, the same like, what is it, Old Navy
yeah,
shorts, you know, and then a top, you know. But she's like,
yeah,
yeah, it's just cut to the core.
yeah. And I mean, I like fashion. I always like fashion and to change my look up. But yeah, but now I do deities, and so
We'll put you more on the bottom of the platform.
yeah, and it's so much more peaceful, honestly. Like to because you don't have to focus on that. So
Whatever's comfortable.
yeah.
Lasts.
Yeah. All right, I guess we'll end there unless there's any other comments. All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.